Welcome to the Reporters Square Table, presented by Lending Tree. I'm Matt Roczynski from Hornets.com, being joined by three amazing guests today. We've got Diana Biffle, who is our social media manager here with the Charlotte Hornets. Also joining us on the call, Bill Voth, who is the Assistant Director of Digital and Broadcasting for the Carolina Panthers, as well as Dan LaTorraca, the Senior Director of Marketing for the Carolina Hurricanes. How are you guys doing today?
As you can see, Dan and I are on the same porch, so we're calling in right next to each other. It's kind of awkward.
6 feet apart, social distancing. But Bill, great to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Well, we're thrilled to have you guys on here, and thanks for coming on board, because obviously this is an unprecedented time for all of us right now, and we just wanted to kind of get everyone together from the professional sports teams around the Carolina area. We know that there's a soccer team coming soon too, so next time we'll make sure we get those folks on here too. But we just wanted to kind of talk about the way things are changing in the digital landscape and what we're all seeing and how things have really changed as we're connecting to our fans in new and different ways. How do you guys think the situation we are in right now has kind of changed the way we've had to look at content? I'll start with you, Dan.
I think it really depends on the sport, the league. Obviously, I know Bill will probably have a very different answer than me because the NFL is in a different period of their offseason, whereas the NBA, the NHL, and the MLB are all in kind of different periods of when they start things up. So for the NBA and the NHL, we're truly on pause. We've got nothing going on. We're trying to occupy and entertain our fans in lieu of what was going to be the playoffs. Try to kind of maintain brand relevancy, but also hit the right tones to where we're making sure we're respectful of the current situation, but also provide a decent escape as we are designed to do through something like this. So it's definitely a challenge when you have to create your own news, and we don't really have a lot going on in the hockey world. But it is one that I think encourages a lot of creativity and thinking outside of the box, or just a lot of going back to the basics and kind of re-examining what social media means and digital media means and how it can be an interactive platform. So certainly it's been, I think, an eye-opening experience for a lot of us and one we can learn a ton from.
Speaking of changing the way we do content, Bill, you guys just did your schedule release for the Panthers. Absolutely amazing work, by the way. Tremendous job by you and your crew over there. But that is just another way of showing how things are changing for us, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's a thing where you just hire well. Dan knows, right? It's just hire these creatives that can go do things that make you go wow. But Dan mentioned doing content right now out of the box, like thinking outside the box, and we're really fortunate because we have had these tentpole items in the past few weeks with the NFL draft and with schedule release. So I hate to complain that we've been so busy because I know that you guys, it's you haven't had tentpole items, you haven't had games. You would have. This would have been a lot of your sweet spots. Now we're about to head into those almost content wastelands, and it's all about figuring out how you can engage fans during this. So we've been pretty fortunate that we've at least had, as hard as this is for all of us, we've been fortunate that we've at least had content to talk about.
Yeah, and you talk about personnel and people who work for you. Diana, I'm fortunate to have somebody like Diana because she's really helping us maintain everything in our social spaces. What kind of a change have you seen, Diana?
I think, at the very beginning of all this, everyone was in a bit of shock. And I think all of the teams had to reflect that as well and be sensitive to it. So we went dark for a little bit in the beginning, as I think most teams did. And we really assessed the situation, and we realized, okay, the games may be postponed right now, but sports still bring people together and social media still brings people together. So that's what we're here to do. So, we started out in the beginning with the messaging that really needed to be out there. We did the hand washing tips. We reminded people to stay home. Our players were amazing in getting video messages to us to share that message with our fans. And then, that idea of togetherness kind of continued, and we're still in it together. And now we're here making sure we're able to entertain our fans. Maybe we don't have basketball games, but hey, let's show you some of our favorite highlights from the season. Let's play games with our fans back and forth. Twitter engagement has been crazy lately. And so we're there. We're on Twitter. We're playing games with our fans on Twitter. We're giving out prizes to fans on Twitter more than we ever have. And I think that kind of one-to-one engagement with our fans has been really important and awesome for us during this time.
You know, you mentioned that we're all in this together, and we've seen that not only with our fans, not only with us in our departments, but also throughout our organizations. I think for us, it's really kind of allowing more collaboration from an organizational standpoint to produce a lot of what we're doing so that we're delivering that right message. Bill, is that kind of the same way you guys are looking at things with the Panthers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've done a couple live shows. We did one during the draft. We did one after schedule release last night, and we wouldn't have been able to pull that off without using people that usually work the video boards with the Panthers, working with sponsorship hand in hand. I mean, I'm sure you guys are dealing with the same thing. Sponsors aren't able to attach themselves to stuff they usually do right now, so we have to come up with new concepts to attach sponsors to. So working hand in hand with sponsorship to come up with new concepts. Yeah, having more of an integrated approach for all this. I think especially I'm guilty of it, being in a creative world. You just kind of put your head down and you're like, we got it. But it's like so many departments need our platforms right now that we have to open up these platforms. And it's not just, okay, that's not become content dumping grounds, but how do we take your content? How do we take the needs that you need and make it good, engaging content for everybody?
Dan, same thing you guys got to be doing over with the Hurricanes, I would assume.
Absolutely. Bill makes a great point in that our digital platforms have become the most functional and valuable through all this. So we want to make sure that we're supporting the organization and whatever initiative is going on to either tell the story or support fans or recognize those that deserve to be recognized for supporting the community in any form. And to Bill's point as well, we want to make sure that we build it out the right way so it will resonate with our fans and still adheres to the quality and the values that we've established for our digital strategy. But the rules have certainly changed right now. How we measure our metrics and how we gauge what belongs on social and what doesn't has certainly changed and kind of given way to what does the most good to help people, what does the most good to help the organization. And the landscape is different, so we have to adapt. And I think in doing so, we're learning some new things as well.
Yeah, the craziest thing about all of this to me is just how being apart has actually brought people closer together, not only, from an organizational standpoint, but from just overall our fans. Diana, when you talk about the organizational standpoint of coming together, we're seeing the same thing, especially with partnerships and things like that, right?
Absolutely. We've been working. It's really amazing. Like Matt said, we've always worked closely with our teams, other departments within the Hornets organization. But now more than ever, we are jumping on video calls with our community outreach team, with our partnerships team more than we typically do. And we are, as a result, coming up with even more creative solutions. And I think that's been a really fun thing to come out of this. And I'm excited to see what it turns into as we continue to work so closely together. I think it's really fantastic.
You mentioned our community. Obviously, there is such a tie to the community, and all of our ties to the community as professional sports teams in our areas is so important for us. For you, Dan, when you talk about the ties with the community, have you seen that kind of grow as you've developed more community type content to really keep focused on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, out of the gate, and this might be different for other organizations, like an NFL team that isn't really prepping for a homestand right now. And, we had food that we could give away immediately to food shelters because we had an 8 or 10 game homestand coming up. And it was the kind of thing where getting involved and diving in as quickly as you can in order to be part of that community is really, really important. We're not in a situation now where we're asking for money. We're not trying to generate revenue. We're just trying to do our part to help support others. And whatever platform we can do or use to support our community is great. And that creates a stronger sense of relationship. I mean, sports ties communities together. It serves as what represents a lot of communities. And if we can do our part to support all those that are making actual sacrifices and going out there on the front lines, then we're doing our job the right way. And there's benefits to that from a brand standpoint too. You hate to think about it that way, but there is value in kind of doing the right thing as opposed to not doing the right thing.
Yeah, and also from a community standpoint, as we're looking at this, it's not just, the big things that are going on, although we've all done tremendous things. I know that we had the $250,000 donation, but it's also all these small little stories that are also making as big of an impact. Diane, have you noticed that in our spaces, how just some of the smallest things can make the biggest difference?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we had one of our graphic designers, Amy, she took it upon herself to raise money on her personal Twitter account because she does have a pretty large following of other people in the sports social media world, and just said, hey, please Venmo me. I'm putting together these packs to send to people, educational packs and snack packs for people in need right now. And I think she quadrupled her expectation in terms of how many people donated. And that's just been amazing. And it's just one small piece of just smaller things that people within our organization are doing. I think it's just so awesome.
Yeah, and Bill, you guys are obviously a fabric of the Charlotte community, the Carolina community, the Carolina Panthers as well. Yeah, just kind of talk a little bit about how your community efforts have been going and the response you've been seeing.
Well, it all starts with the Teppers, and I'm going to sound like a team shill here, but really, I mean, it does, and they've done so much both publicly and privately. But I think what's going to be really interesting to see over the next few weeks and months is we've seen what teams have done in the early stages of this pandemic, but now here comes these waves of how do we get people back on their feet. Clearly, there's so much going on economically right now, so I think that's going to be, I know at least from a Tepper's perspective, how do we attack this next wave of need, which is getting people who have lost their jobs and who are struggling economically and getting them going again.
Yeah, filling those areas of need, obviously something that us as professional sports organizations have the opportunity to do at such a tremendous level on all accounts. The other thing that we can do is entertain. We can do things that are fun for our fans, provide them different kind of content opportunities. We've had to do different things with our players. We've seen them do all kinds of different things to kind of really connect to fans in a different way. Diana, what are some of the things that you've enjoyed doing with some of our players so far?
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorites we just posted yesterday, we worked with Lowe's to send Cody Zeller this woodworking kit to make a tiny basketball hoop. He threw the instructions to the side and tried to do it on his own. Of course, messed up a little bit. It was really, really funny. So that's been really cool. And I think just even tapping into our players' personal social media accounts, that's been really fun. So we work with them one-on-one to have these videos that we produce, but then it's also cool to see the organic side of things from them as well. So we had Dwayne Bacon playing basketball with one of those little kiddie hoops at home, which is really fun. And then Cody Zeller taking a picture of a terrible meal that he created for himself with microwavable mashed potatoes and the worst steak he's ever had. We posted that, and that kind of content I think really connects with fans and reminds us, we're all in this together, whether you're an NBA player or you're just a teacher, not just a teacher, teachers are incredible. But no matter who you are, you're going through the same thing at home.
Yeah, and Bill, for you guys, content creators, did you ever think that your players would become such content creators for us? I know that I never thought that they would.
Well, I always hope they do. Like, seriously, when the guys they draft, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe he can play or not, but I hope that he's a talker and really wants to make content. But I mean, that's the draft. I think that was such an opportunity to take people and show them scenes we've never been able to see before. So we sent all the draft picks jerseys and recorded them opening up their jerseys. Those are scenes we've never been able to get to before. We've never been able to see those moments before. We did a Zoom call with the entire draft class. They hadn't met each other before, except 2 of the 7 had met each other before. But here they are. It's like almost like the first day of school, and you're at a new school, and you really don't know each other. So you're kind of stiff at first, but then you started seeing them opening up a little bit. And again, those are moments that we've never been able to peek into before. And so while it goes to Dan's point at the beginning, you got to think outside the box. And when you do that, you can find new content opportunities, which is really cool for us, but then it's also really cool for fans.
Yeah, Dan, have your players enjoyed doing this as well?
Yeah, we've been really lucky. If you guys follow the Canes, Trip Tracy, our color analyst, has a legendary personality and is really engaging and charming. So we've been having weekly Zoom chats with a bunch of our players, with the occasional Zoom bomb of John Isner or Roy Cooper, and that's giving us a really great platform to showcase their natural personality, because they're already engaging with people that they're comfortable with when it's a couple of players and it's Tripp who travels with them on the team. So that's given us a real good insight as to, what they're doing at home and makes them comfortable kind of out of the gate. Bill, that video with the draft picks was awesome too. I really enjoyed watching that. So, we're in a position where a lot of our players are back in Europe right now, so it can be challenging from a time zone standpoint. So a lot of our content has been leaning on our tremendous graphic design team and our social media team, who have really stepped up to the challenge of creating things that facilitate engagement and interaction and one-to-one type stuff. And we sort of got a head start on this whole process by mapping out some ideas that we had in the tank, like an office-themed thread or a kindness thread or things of that nature that we were waiting to produce for a while, and now we had an opportunity to do so. So I think limitations do yield creativity, and to Bill's point as well, it's allowing us all to look at things differently, and I think that's going to be a great takeaway when this is all said and done from a content marketing perspective.
When we say looking at things differently too, I think one thing that we've noticed is how much all of this content is also humanized people a little bit more. These athletes who might have been considered untouchable before we're all now down at the same level. Is that going to be a positive for all of us going forward, knowing that we have this opportunity now to create these new pieces to connect with our fans and engage with our fans in maybe a different way? I'll start with you, Bill.
You hope so, right? I think a lot of people, the NFL had so much praise after that draft. So are you going to, once the world goes back to normal, are we going to really be okay with showing these sides and being vulnerable? Are we going to be okay with getting inside Bill Belichick's house or any of these other houses and our GMs who are saying all these great things about, hey, we got to spend time with our families when they're allowed back in the building? Are they really going to leave at 8 o'clock and go hang out with their families? Or are they going to be these big, tough football guys who sleep in their offices? So you hope that we all learn from this, and we all hope that we can then continue to latch onto some of this more personal content. But until it gets there, it's I don't really know.
Yeah, Dan, I would assume you're kind of in the same situation.
Yeah, I mean, this certainly has broken down walls, at least temporarily, and they exist for a lot of us. But I also think it's allowed many of us on the business operations side to reevaluate our work-life balance. And we all know how much of a grind the sports industry is and how little family time we get. And it's been certainly a gift to have this additional time, whether it's with Bill here or, my daughter that I'm waving at through the window here. It's something that I think allows us to hopefully respect those boundaries more. A lot of us are already built to work from home because we do it so much already, which kind of eased the transition of this for a lot of our teams. But I'm hoping that this allows us to really evaluate, what's important, what matters, and what truly is a priority as we move forward through this. But on the player side, they're certainly more human. I mean, we all see they can't cook, and that's something that I have in common with our team and our NBA players now. But it is something that I do hope we see a little bit more of the human connection and the value of being a person in our content moving forward.
Yeah, and Diana, as we look at it, as we're talking about these connections, this is kind of establishing things like you both said, like both Dan and Bill said, to establish things for the long term. We're looking at short term all the time, but we're also looking at there's a lot of long term things that could be coming out of this, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I think all of this is reminding us why we love social media and digital media so much. It's the core of all of it is empathy and this ability to turn a big corporation of any kind, whether it's a team or any other kind of brand, into a person that you can relate to. And I think that we can get caught up in, coverage of events and games, and that's so important, but it's just as important to remember that social media is about being social and about connecting with our fans on a one-to-one basis. So I think while that's also always a big part of our strategy, this was a real reminder of just simple things that we can do to connect with our fans on a regular basis, whether that's responding to more comments. We've been doing this follow back Friday really frequently, every other Friday, where we say, comment, share, like our posts, and we'll follow you back and we'll respond to your comments. And we spend all day just having conversations with our fans. And it's just so much fun. And it reminds us how important it is to be a friend to our fans and to carry that through in all of our content strategy.
Diana talks about conversations. I think we could go on forever, the four of us, that's for sure. We all love to talk, but I really appreciate the fact that everyone was able to kind of share their thoughts. Thank you guys so much for coming together here on this edition of the Reporters Square Table presented by Lending Tree. For Diana, for Bill, for Dan, I'm Matt Roczynski for Hornets.com. Make sure you join us next week and stay safe out there.